Good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to MCI, Taste of MCI, with me, Chef Pam. And today we're going to start with the basics. The lesson today is going to be on boiling and simmering. How to boil water, how to simmer water, and how to make water taste good. So let's get started. One of the first things you're going to learn in culinary school is how to make a stock. Today we're going to make a simple neutral stock. But what is stock? Well, stock is the foundation of almost everything that we cook. A stock is a flavored liquid obtained by simmering bones, vegetables, and spices. So for today we're going to use chicken stock. And what I have here, I have some chicken bones. Now you can fabricate your own chickens and use the bones, or you could use backs and necks if you go to the grocery store. Try to take off any extra fat, excess fat or anything. And I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them in a big pot. This is called a stock pot. And I'm going to cover them with cold water. I've already done that for us, so I'm going to put these aside for the time being. Now, we want to start with cold water and then slowly bring it up to a boil. The cold water helps extract all the good flavors that are in the chicken bones. Now let's have a peek here and see. It's not come to a boil yet, but I'll know it's boiling because the bubbles are going to be really big. I don't want to keep it at a boil, however. I want to establish a simmer. We'll talk about that in a little while. Now, while the chicken bones are coming up to a simmer, I can prepare my mirepoix. Mirepoix, also another basic, is carrots, onions, and celery. Carrots, onions, and celery, and the ratio, as a rule, 50% onions, 25% carrots, 25% celery. We can cut them roughly because we don't serve mirepoix. We're going to toss it away, but it's going to give us that aromatic thing. Now, here's a trick I like to show you. Before we start peeling anything, we're going to cover our cutting board with plastic, and then we can just peel our vegetables right onto the plastic. Incidentally, these carrots are much bigger than you might get in the grocery store. We call these are called horse carrots, probably because they're good for horses. So I'm going to trim this and trim that. Peeling an onion, not so difficult. Take your paring knife. At the root end, trim off those whiskers. Don't cut it off, trim them off, right? And then I'll go up here and I use the tip of my knife and my thumb and I get under the paper there and I just peel it off. Now, in this day and age, you might be asking, wow, that's a lot of food waste. Can you do anything with that? Well, yes and no. In all honesty, this type of food waste is just that. It's food waste. And I'll tell you why. Because once when I was a young culinarian, I said, I'm going to impress the chef and I'm going to make a soup out of this for family meal. And the soup tasted just like a bowl of dirt. So save yourself the trouble. This type of stuff we can throw away. The celeries, as a rule, save the leaves. They tend to be bitter. So we don't often put that in our stock. Okay. And then what I'll do here is all I have to do now is wrap this up. And voila, my cutting board is clean. And this can go into my trash on my station. For the mirepoix itself, the size of your mirepoix depends on what you're cooking. The longer it cooks, the bigger the mirepoix. And for these, we're just going to chunk them tip to heel, tip to heel. Very simple, right? And in they go. And like I said, the ratio is about 50% onions, 25% carrot, 25% celery. Onion, the root end. You cut it so that each half has a root. That's what holds it together. And then for mirepoix, you can simply... Now, mirepoix does not take as long as the bones. Bones in general take, well, chicken bones we allow 3 to 5 hours. Beef and veal a little longer, but we'll do those on another lesson. But let's have a peek in here. Now, when it comes to a boil, we're going to turn it down and establish a simmer. But when it comes to up there, all these impurities come to the surface. And we want to trim those off. We want to skim those off. So what I have is I have a bain. This is called a bain-marie or water bath. It's got water in it. This is a ladle. And then I have another bowl here that can gather the scum. And I'm simply going to go around the top and I'm going to take off these impurities. They're kind of yucky. We don't want those in our stock. And as the stock simmers for the next 3 to 4 hours, we're going to go ahead and skim that off. So you keep the bain-marie, the ladle, in the water so it doesn't get all gunky. And then every so often you would throw this out. Now here's a bit of a trick I can tell you. Depending on your stove, when the water boils, if you have the water boiling in the middle, it'll push the scum out all to the sides. If you offset your pot a wee bit, there we go, the bubbles will come up on one side and it pushes it all to the other side, and that makes it a little bit easier to skim. Yeah. We haven't added our vegetables because we're going to add those towards the end. The vegetables only take about an hour to cook. And so I'm going to go ahead. This has been on for a little while. We'll skim it still. And what I need to really stress at this point is the difference between boiling and simmering. Boiling, rapid bubbles, lots of movement. Simmering, gentle, little bit, just plops the surface. So you may have to babysit your pot a little bit to make sure that you've got the right temperature going. All right, in we go with the Mirepoix. Very good. And also one of the other things we're going to make is a sachet d'épices, and that is going to be simply a little bit of cheesecloth with some peppercorns, and we have bay leaf, some parsley stems, some thyme, even a little piece of garlic. We're going to tie this up in a little tea bag, and we're going to throw that right in here a little later on. All right. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to strain the stock, what we can do with it, and make a nice simple dish. See you in a minute. Bye-bye.
Fresh thinking is being served at Miami-Dade College. Create your own recipe for success in the evolution of food culture at the Miami Culinary Institute. Learn the skills you need to jumpstart your career in the culinary arts. Turn green into gourmet and celery into salary. Miami Culinary Institute. Food, culture, innovation. Visit us at miamidadeculinary.com. Register now. Miami Culinary Institute.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So our stock is nicely simmering. And I'm going to talk to you about straining it real quickly. Now, when we strain our stocks, we like to use a conical strainer, sometimes called a china cap. This is a hard metal strainer that is good for bones. And oftentimes we line it with something called cheesecloth. Now, cheesecloth often has lint. So it's a very good idea to rinse your cheesecloth before you use it. I've already taken the liberty of rinsing my cheesecloth on a china cap here, and I've actually taken some string to tie it because it's a real drag when you're straining stock and the cheesecloth falls inside. So when it's time to strain your stock, then you will ladle it or pour it in through here, okay? Some stock pots are so large they actually have a spigot on the bottom. Those are great. You could just open it up and let it go. All that's in there, the bones, the mirepoix, that's spent. You throw that away. It's no longer really useful. It's done its job and you've gotten all the flavor. So let's talk about what can we do with this stock. Now we've got a flavored liquid obtained by simmering. Chicken stock, a neutral stock. So let's cook a chicken. So I got a little bird here, and this birdie is just a small fryer. Hello there. And we're going to truss him up. And the reason we're going to truss him up is so that it holds its shape. In the cavity, I'll throw some herbs just to make it nice. And bird's a lot like we are. These are his arms, and we're going to put his arms behind his head, just like you're chilling. There you go. Right, and the legs, and I take a piece of string, about this big, underneath the butt there. Come up, hello, up. We're going to cross over, and we're going to go under the legs and pull it snug. Then around, flip her over, and tie. Now here's a little trick. When you're tying, right? You go around once, go around twice, and then pull it real snug. That way it sticks. You can tie a little bow or another knot. We're good to go. Good. That goes out. And now we have this lovely bird. She's going to hold her shape. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this bird in a pot, and we're going to poach it or simmer it in some of this lovely stock. Here I've got my little chicken, and I put a little hat on him so he or she, I haven't decided, has a little blanket. And let's have a look here. Grab a fork. What you don't want to do is use a tongs are tough. The reason tongs are difficult, sometimes the water gets in and they run down. So I've got a fork here, and I can see that starting to come to a simmer. I'm going to flip it over. A small chicken like this might take about an hour, give or take. The temperature for chickens is about 165 internal, but you also want to make sure that the bones and the juices are running clear. That's really the key. Now, right next to me, you can see I have some water. Now, this water is boiling. Boiling is a great technique, but we only use it for certain things. We want to use it for things that are fibrous, that it's going to break down. Like if I put a chicken in that now, it's going to be torn to shreds. But it's very good for cooking things like dried pasta and fibrous vegetables. So I could cook some pasta in this. That's probably something most of us know how to do. This here is really cool. This is pearl pasta or large couscous. So I've already cooked some of that. And then I have some of the same vegetables that we used to make our stock. I've got carrots, onions, and celery. So just for kicks and giggles, we want to cut some garnish for this. So go ahead and we're going to go ahead and we'll cut a little, we can do it a few ways, but just so I show you, some carrot, little julienne might be nice. The general rule of thumb when you're cutting vegetables to be served, whether it's in soup or a stew, is it should fit on a spoon. It has to be able to be fitting in your mouth. So if you cut something that long, it's not exactly the best for the customer or your guest to eat it. Easy way to do this is we're going to just plunge it in the boiling water. I'm going to use a sieve because I'm smart, right? And then I want to stop the cooking process. So in order to do that, I need an ice bath, which is eluding me right now, but I'm not sure where it is. Anyway, let me go get it. I think it's in the fridge. Excuse me 1 minute while I grab that. Ice bath. Now, and the purpose of the ice bath is it stops the cooking process. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with some carrots. And I've got some celery here. I could also cut a short bâtonnet. Hey, maybe you don't want to be so fancy. We could do other ways too. We could cut carrot slices. Carrot, one someone called these copper pennies. I thought that was cute. Or you could cut your celery on a bias. That's often nice too. See how I'm kind of like, sort of, right? Like this. Beam me up, Scotty. Okay, so that's some other choices. Just remember, when you cut vegetables, they should fit on a spoon and everything should sort of be along the same lines. For onions, I chose pearl onions. Pearl onions are kind of fun. They're often found in little mesh bags. Same thing applies. Blanch them and shock them. Now, you're probably wondering what I can do with some of these scraps. Well, let's just go ahead and put our leftovers in here. The leftover scraps can all go into here. This is a fennel. Looks a little bit like a heart. Great flavor, has a somewhat licorice flavor. These can be used to flavor our broth that we're poaching our chicken in. And then once again, for the fennel itself, we can just cut a few small pieces that would fit in our bowl, all right, that we would also blanch and shock. Okay. Now let's have a look at our little chicken, see how he's doing. Okay. The chicken itself is coming up fine. Don't worry if the chicken isn't covered. It's a combination of steaming and poaching, all right? We'll make a little blanket for him so he's covered, or you can put a lid on. Okay, good. When it's done, we're gonna take that chicken out, let it cool. Ideally, let it cool in its juices overnight, but if you don't have that, we'll take it out, and I'm gonna show you how to fabricate it and how to serve it for a lovely dinner for you and your loved ones. Thank you. See you in a few minutes.
Fresh thinking is being served at Miami-Dade College. Create your own recipe for success in the evolution of food culture at the Miami Culinary Institute. Learn the skills you need to jumpstart your career in the culinary arts. Turn green into gourmet and celery into salary. Miami Culinary Institute. Food, culture, innovation. Visit us at miamidadeculinary.com. Register now. Miami Culinary Institute.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So let's go ahead and put our dish together. First, let's have a peek at our little chicken under the cartouche. She looks like she's doing well. And when the time has come, after about an hour, take your fork or tongs, pull it out, and let it chill. Now, if you can, the best is to let the chicken chill overnight in the juices. That way it sucks all the flavors up, but we often don't have that time. However, we want to use this broth. So for today, this broth is going to be very flavorful. Let's just double check if we need salt or pepper. It tastes very nice, soothing, calming, nice chicken flavor. Could use a little bit of extra salt and pepper, but I'm going to go ahead and strain this, and I can strain it either with a regular old strainer, or I can use a cheesecloth, or what we sometimes use is a fine mesh strainer called a chinois. So that's going to be my broth for my dish. And to heat my chicken, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit and put it in a small pan. The chicken itself has to be fabricated, but before we do that, well, actually, before I do that, let's take the chicken right here. I've taken the liberty of taking the skin off and the breast off. And what I have here is half of the chicken. I've got the little drumstick, I've got the thigh with the bone out, and I've got my chicken breast. Depending on how many people you want to serve or how much you want to have, you can decide whether each person gets half a chicken or a quarter chicken. What I'd like to show you, however, is how to slice the breast. Okay, this is the chicken breast. Now, what happens if you take the chicken out and it's still a little underdone? That's all right, because you're going to reheat it again. You don't want it raw, but if it's a little bit underdone, take a thin knife, right? And then the chicken, don't cut down like that. It's just terribly unattractive. You want to slice something on an angle. So I'm going to go like this, right? Nice. Let the knife do the work. Not too thick. And I can see, oh, that chicken looks beautifully moist. So I think one portion would be half a breast and maybe half of the leg meat. So each guest gets a little bit of light meat and dark meat. So I'll go ahead and place that in my pot and place this in here. And then I'll heat that up gently with a little bit of chicken stock that I just made. Okay, so now while that's warming up, let's go ahead and get to our garnishes in here. So what I have here are all the vegetables that we blanched. I've got some carrots, celery. I even threw in a few peas because I like the way they look. And I've got some couscous. Now that couscous is nice on the bottom. Actually, couscous goes nicely with a little lemon zest. That'll give it just a pop of flavor. And lemon goes so nicely with chicken. So let's go ahead. This is heated up a little. You can heat it up in a little stock. Let's give a little base of couscous. And then for our vegetables, they look a little bland. So amazingly, some salt and pepper. Some chopped herbs really help make these. And you can use the herbs you wish. I stuck with basically parsley and a little thyme because that's what we made in the stock. And we'll ladle these around. Okay, now the rule is, if you are not cooking the food anymore, you either need to wear a glove or use a utensil, which is what I'm doing here. My chicken breast should be nicely poaching. We're gonna let that warm up. This I can actually put in the oven for a few minutes so that it gets nice and warm for my guests. If I'd like to, some of us are pepperheads. I have some beautifully sliced serrano chilies here that would be nice if you like a little extra flavor. Okay, this looks good here. Maybe take a chili or two that we can, look how pretty those are. I'm gonna put them right up there for now. And this chicken is coming up. I'm gonna go ahead and needs just a minute or two more. Now, another interesting way you can do this is you can take your broth and you could put it in a little teapot. And when you bring it to the table, you can pour the broth around. That's always really restaurant-y, and actually it's kind of efficient as well, as opposed to bringing bowls of soup to the table like that. Okay. Just to recap, stock, a flavored liquid obtained by simmering bones, vegetables, and spices. Today we made a neutral chicken stock. That means it probably simmers between 3 to 5 hours, adding in the mirepoix and the sachet at the last hour. Simmering, we're going to take the stock that we made and we're going to actually poach or simmer a whole chicken in it. That actually turns that stock into a broth. Now, a broth is a finished product. I can eat broth. I'm not going to eat a bowl of stock, but I can eat a broth. So we made a dish called poule au pot, or chicken in the pot, which is basically a simmered chicken with vegetables and broth. The bottom, here's our little legs. We'll go there, and then we'll fan out a breast. 1, 2, 3. 3. Some serranos, maybe a little bit of parsley on the top. We'll ladle some of our broth into here. Our nice, beautiful broth. And then we're going to go over to the table, and I'll show you how to set the table and have a nice glass of wine that might go along well with it.
Fresh thinking is being served at Miami-Dade College. Create your own recipe for success in the evolution of food culture at the Miami Culinary Institute. Learn the skills you need to jumpstart your career in the culinary arts. Turn green into gourmet and celery into salary. Miami Culinary Institute. Food, culture, innovation. Visit us at miamidadeculinary.com. Register now. Miami Culinary Institute.
Everybody, welcome back. So let's see, we have our finished dish here. I've set a very simple table. I've got my soup plate that's hot with my chicken, couscous, and vegetables. I've got some broth, which I'm going to go ahead and pour over. And there's more should I need it. I've set the table very simply. Simply have the first things we have is our knife with the sharp side facing in. That's on our right hand side. I think a soup spoon is appropriate for this particular dish. And then a fork in case you need to cut the chicken. We have a wine glass here. Of course, sparkling water would be delightful, but if you would like to have a glass of wine, this wine was suggested by our sommelier, Jim Carroll. It looks like a nice Chardonnay. He said it drinks like a Sancerre. And this is what we have for today: boiling and simmering, making stock the foundations of cuisine. Please come visit us for our next episode when we'll go into making, you'll have to wait and see. Thank you very much. This is Chef Pam with the Taste of MCI.